Today, we begin our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft with trades. Just like the NFL draft, this is split up into 2 days. Day 1 is round 1. Day 2 is rounds 2 and 3. So let's get into this. Again, if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is based on my all 22 grades. It is not predictive. These are the players I love in the order that I love them. And I'm continuously updating these grades. If you see an asterisk, those are players that with a revaluation should be falling a little bit, maybe a lot. I don't know. But I actually just kind of feel like it doesn't represent their spot. A plus is a pre-injury grade. So we'll talk about that in a second. But let's get into this. Starting out with the number 1 overall pick, we have the New Orleans Saints. And the question is, do you want to stay here? Do you want to try to move back, get some good capital and such? You look at the picks that the Saints have. It's honestly pretty conducive if you want to move back. And my only issue with said move back is if the Titans were, let's just say, sitting at 5, sitting at 6, I'd be much more open to it because you guys know me. It's all about free real estate, but more so free draft picks, and you get to move down, get the same player that you want. That's my mindset. I don't think there's the option of that here. Now, the question is it Ruben Bain or is it Fernando Mendoza / Dante Moore? It doesn't really matter which one you prefer. It's, actually relatively similar skill sets. I think Fernando Mendoza would go above Dante Moore based on the current situation because Mendoza has been to multiple systems, has shown consistency through that, multiple years of high-level play. And just better this year at Indiana than he ever was at Cal, but he still was good at Cal. So the question is, are they going to be giving up on the options they have? I think that currently they're showing favoritism towards Shuck. I don't think this disqualifies them from going after a quarterback. And, I ended up going Ruben Bain for my last mock draft, but I do think it's a very strong likelihood if they're already like benching Rattler, just kind of seeing what Shuck has in the gas tank, so to speak. It's pretty obvious they're looking to at least fulfill a position that they don't think is yet filled. And whether Shuck is that guy who answers that call or not, if you're sitting at 1, probably means he didn't answer the call. So that's going to be my logic behind the pick number 1 with Fernando Mendoza. Again, you could try to trade back, get cute and all that. But again, it's very expensive to try to get cute. Not really in the mood to do that. But the Jets at number 2, I feel just super comfortable saying we're locked in. We're going to be going Dante Moore, either Fernando Mendoza or Moore. Doesn't really matter. Quarterback 1 and 2 go back to back. I've talked ad nauseum about the quarterbacks. We're going to be having, once the season is over, some positional rankings and, get you guys some good content there. But, I love Dante Moore, love Fernando Mendoza. I do think that, we've kind of gotten some prospect fatigue on them, but they have had their respective struggles this year. I think that the Glazers are overglazing and the people who are kind of hating are, just not really putting into account that, these quarterbacks are better than what we saw last year. So I'll just put that out there. At number 3, we have the Tennessee Titans, and I'm looking at Ruben Bain here all day. I mean, I don't need to explain this too much. I love Malachi Lawrence. We'll talk about him tomorrow on day 2, but Ruben Bain is a ridiculously great talent. I do think that he's not the greatest athlete on planet Earth. I think he'll have sub 33-inch arms. Is that the end all be all? No. But at the same time, it might limit the ceiling. There are some great players, a lot of them in the NFL that don't have that arm length. At the same time, they're not necessarily built like Ruben Bain. But Ruben Bain is going to be a super consistent defensive lineman regardless. And that's kind of what you want with the Tennessee Titans. You don't need to have a top 2 edge rusher in the NFL. You really wanted to do that, you would have sent your pick for Micah Parsons, right? But, I mean, of course, he ended up saying, Philadelphia or Green Bay. But you get what I'm saying. Ruben Bain should still end up being a top-end edge rusher in the NFL for a team that needs it desperately. I feel very happy with sticking with a pretty chalk top 3. At number 4 for the Cleveland Browns, I ended up talking about this in 2 days ago, a video on my 2-round mock draft. I like the idea of saying, hey, Shedeur is going to come back or going to come in eventually and, eventually play so good that you can debate on whether you go quarterback here. There's a clear top 3 in this class. Like Lenoris, I think he needs to transfer schools. I, for now, am not yet ready to not include him in these mock drafts. Maybe next week we can start discussing it if we haven't seen a big step forward with him. We haven't seen it all season. I'm 95% sure he's returning to school. However, Ty Simpson is going to be, that top option there. And he is not like a consolation prize. It's not like, oh, okay, I need a quarterback, so I guess we can go with this. He's a good quarterback, especially for how unseasoned he is. He's white. That's not the reason he's unseasoned, but he is 23 years old. I will put that out there. I think he's older than the other quarterbacks that are already taken. He just has less experience. So, but I will say this. If Stefanski is there, I highly doubt it if you're like with the current situation. I thought it was a complete mismanagement of quarterback capital. But if he's still there, Ty Simpson's right up his alley. We'll see who ends up fulfilling those shoes. We're going to go with it regardless. I was saying they haven't played Shedeur yet, even though Dylan Gabriel's been absolute ass cheeks. Just got to say, doesn't mean, like, I would say that's a good indicator of whether they would end up passing on a quarterback in the top 5. You're not going to play him over Dylan Gabriel. Probably don't have the loyalty to say, what do we got here? So, at number 5, we have the Miami Dolphins. And, like, this is a great spot to try to move out. And the question is there anybody worth moving up for? Because, I mean, to trade back, you need a team to trade up. And the player who I would think is at most risk is Jordan Tyson here. Like, I think, Jordan Tyson, if you saw Ruben Bain here, I would easily say Ruben Bain. But Caleb Downs is not worth a move up. The price is roughly like a second round pick if you're in a short range territory. And let's not do that, right? So the question is, what type of talents do you need to look for? And, again, Peter Woods, love him to death. I don't really see a threat with all these teams here to like try to move up for him. Again, you have to give up extra capital in order to justify that, right? And I just don't necessarily see it. If you saw Ty Simpson here, he'd go to the Dolphins, but let's just somehow say the Dolphins are 100% committed to Tua. You could end up trying to like talking with the Rams or something like that and get some extra draft capital because of it. Like, the big issue is with Jordan Tyson, there's some guys who are nipping at his heels. Like, there's Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell. Like, that's the top group right there. I don't think you're going to find the return on investment that you're thinking you will get. And that sucks. I mean, honestly, it really does suck. But at the same time, the Dolphins can't go wrong here. So the moves for us is Jordan Tyson, right? There's a chance that Jalen Waddle's out of the building, but most importantly, Tyreek Hill, our number one weapon coming into the year, pretty much toast, right? We don't even know if he's going to be coming back. We know he's definitely not going to be 100% Tyreek Hill. So let's just imagine he's not part of the picture. Need to go after a wide receiver. We also can look at offensive line. There's Spencer Fano in the equation. My only problem with that is I personally still want to give a shot to the tackles, and then I think the interior offensive line needs a lot more help. Jonas Avenia kind of looks like a bust right now, and not kind of. He's complete cheeks. But I would end up saying pass on the offensive line. I'm looking at Jordan Tyson, and then Arvell Reese is the other one, and there's one more. So Arvell Reese is a fantastic weapon. The problem is linebacker hasn't been taken in the top 10 in the past 5 years, let alone the top 5. I think Arvell Reese will challenge the 10, but the 5, different story. This is the pick I might end up going with because I think this team desperately needs to hit on these picks and get the maximum value possible. Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU. First off, to me, he's my number 7 player on my board. Cornerback 1 coming into the year. Very happy I took that guess. For some reason, I never played cornerback. I played 7 years of football. Never once have I played a defensive back role. I'm somehow kind of okay at the cornerback position. But he's been phenomenal this year. I mean, complete lockdown in every single facet of the game. So I'm a huge fan of Mansour Delane. This team needs a true corner 1 in the first place. I'm going to go with it. But here's the reason why. At the top of round 2, what corners are going to be there? I can promise you Colton Hood and Avion Trell are not. You might get Keith Abney. That's a big might. Like, it's a pretty uncertain might. You're going for Davison Igbinosun at that point. And I love Igbinosun. I think people need to get a little bit more on board with Iggy. Top tier athlete, 6'2", 195. Like, I reevaluated him. I'm a firm believer in him. It's been multiple years over and over. I think he's a good player. But I still think, it does feel like, we're going to drop from Mansour Delane to Igbinosin. Again, that's kind of a best case scenario. For wide receiver, we're dropping from Jordan Tyson to probably Casey Concepcion. And we have picks for where we can end up making moves. All said, I'm going to be going after Mansour Delane here. So we can always trade up small range and end up getting and securing the wide receiver. But for me, I think it's crucial to go after Mansour Delane here and get somebody as the face of either the offense or the defense. Mansour Delane's been a ridiculously talented option. Big fan there. Did not find any buyers to move down. Number 6 for the Giants. This one is quick and easy. Jordan Tyson all day, every day. This team has practice squad receivers essentially besides your number one, right? Malik Neighbors has been like, the loss of him is huge. I love Wan'Dale Robinson. This doesn't really affect him. Jordan Tyson's a true one, and no one ever complains about having 2 true ones. People are asking like, well, are you going to pay both of them? What a good problem to have. Okay. This is something like people talk about, oh, this player's a little bit older. Like, what happens when he's 28 after his rookie deal? If he's that good, who gives a shit? You got 4 to 5 years out of a great player, right? Like, at the very minimum, having good problems is what good organizations deal with. Deal with the good problems. Jordan Tyson, the selection there at 6. At number 7, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Again, no trade down so far. It is actually very possible. But I'm going to stick chalk with what I did earlier this week in my 2-rounder. I'm going Arvell Reese, defensive super weapon out of the Ohio State University. I know that you can end up saying Peter Woods is a great selection. I think that's perfectly fine. I think in round 2, I might end up trying to go that route myself. Defensive interior, that is. But Arvell Reese is just a freak. And this team needs to have an identity both on the line of scrimmage, where I think Arvell Reese could be an absolute enforcer, but also in the linebacker core. We're starting to lose a little bit of faith in Roquan. I mean, Teddy Buchanan's been extremely up and down. Also, he's not a high pick. So I would say Arvell Reese is going to be now the new focal point and the new energy needed on that defense. At number 8 for the Las Vegas Raiders, would have been nice to have Arvell Reese there. Would have been very, very fun to have someone like that on the squad. But with Peter Woods on the board, I would try to gauge a move down here. Like, you got Caleb Downs as well. You can't really go wrong because, like, Peter Woods, love him. Are you going to get a good defensive interior at 40? Probably. Caleb Downs, love him. Are you going to get a top tier defensive back at 40? Probably. Luckily, both of those defensive classes are pretty damn solid to where I would feel very comfortable moving down. But once again, who's moving up, right? Because I think the big issue is how comfortable. You're pretty much going to be jumping the Cardinals for Spencer Fano. Now, the Vegas Raiders could be a team that targets Spencer Fano themselves. Like, let's not put it out of the realm of possibility. This team definitely should be open to offensive line. But I do think that since Pete Carroll's more defensively minded, there's probably going to be a stronger focus on defensive back position and maybe trying to acquire or develop. You have, of course, Grant on the team. On top of that, you guys ended up drafting the Texas Tech Caleb Rogers last year as well. You do have players that should be developing over time. You guys mismanage your interior offensive line in a big degree. But I do think that just having a focal point on defense, a top tier player, is going to be very, very, very helpful. You need to have a defensive identity when you have Pete Carroll as your coach. And I do have a concern for the quality of defensive interior at 40. I don't for defensive back. And I have them both, smooching, so to speak, grade-wise right next to each other at 1 and 2. I'm going to go Peter Woods, defensive interior out of Clemson. I don't think there's a buyer that's going to be jumping. The Bengals don't move. And then the Rams are really liking Warren McClendon at the moment. Would be nice to give a massive middle finger to the Cardinals, but again, sometimes the top of the board just doesn't move. At number 9 for the Cardinals, this is a quick and easy one. Right tackle is a big need. Spencer Fano's here. Let's not take up too much time. Again, you don't have to have trades in the top 10. It happens. But right now, the way the board is set up feels very solid value for all the teams, maybe except the Dolphins. I like it for every single team here. At number 10 for the Cincinnati Bengals, I might just have to lock in Caleb Downs. I've tried to big brain this a little too much. Now, I love Mansour Delane to this team. He no longer on the board. So we'll end up looking maybe in round 2, round 3 at that cornerback spot. And I feel like we can end up targeting some good players there. But for this team, interior offensive line, I do think Dylan Fairchild has not been consistent enough. Jalen Rivers has always was supposed to be a backup. So, he's just kind of doing what he's supposed to do. Then you end up looking like at the edge spot. This organization, there's a lot of edges that are very good, but this organization, you look at them, they value RAS and they value size, measurables. None of these guys really match up to all of that. TJ Parker, the short arms, I think disqualifies him. Keldrick Falk, not a top tier RAS guy. David Bailey, undersized, also assaulted a cameraman. Just going to throw that out there. I don't think he's a first round pick because of that. Cassius Howell, under 31-inch arms. Kind of a big deal. Romello Height, DPR, undersized. Also Cassius Howell, undersized. LT Overton, glorified defensive tackle. Regraded him today. My God. His role, I watched the normal game tape and I thought it was just more of him assisting other people. No, he's a lot worse. Or Mason Thomas, 31.5-inch arms. You guys are getting what I'm saying. You guys just got a full rundown of the entire defensive line class. I'm just going to go and get the best player available. And we're going to go right down the street. Right now, already in Ohio, let's just go from Cincinnati to Columbus and get Caleb Downs. Best player available. This team doesn't move either, so I'm pretty happy with that. At number 11, we have the Los Angeles Rams via the Atlanta Falcons. With the talent on the board, I don't know if there's that much value for the Rams here. Part of me wants to try to move up with the Texans because they have so many draft picks and I know they love to trade. The problem is I don't necessarily feel like the value is right for said trade. I know the Rams like to do trades. I know the Texans like to do trades. So to me, I'm trying to find a justification for that to happen. I don't feel like Jeremiah Love is necessarily going to be threatened, except for, I guess the Vikings would be, but I sure as hell am not trading up for a running back. That's not logical. Doesn't make sense. Still happens. NFL teams do illogical shit all the time. But I think this is a great opportunity when you see Carnell Tate here to where, is there a team that wants to move up for Carnell? Problem is it's just too far away. The teams that I feel comfortable with doing that are just too far away. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a buyer here. That actually kind of pisses me off a little bit. Just a little bit. I am having Lenoris Sellers still come out in this. I'm not taking him at 11. Just going to throw that out there. Instead, for the Rams, I couldn't have a team trade up for Carnell Tate. We're going Carnell Tate. The wide receiver out of The Ohio State University, back-to-back picks. An elite weapon this year who's taken insane strides to the refinement of his game. He's somebody who could easily be a top 5 selection if he wants to be. I could have ended up doing that at number 5 with the Dolphins if I wanted to. But Carnell Tate, he's been fantastic this year. My number 22 player, but someone who will continue rising. Because it's so hard with so many really good receivers in this class. Very hard to kind of like separate them. And, they end up just kind of like stacking on top of each other. But number 12 for the Washington Commanders, Carnell Tate would have been my selection if he got here to number 12, but not the case. We need to get some movement in here. But again, I just don't feel like the value versus the board makes very much sense. Now, is there a team that would want to move up for someone like Avion Terrell? I would just say the Commanders would rather take him than probably trade down at that point. But I do think the Commanders need to go after a legitimate weapon. Like, you look at edge rusher, I feel very comfortable. We don't have a round 2 pick. This is perfect for why can't there be players for the Texans? This is the perfect opportunity for the Commanders to try to flip their 3rd round pick and put it into a 2nd. Like, this is ideal for said situation. God, that kind of pisses me off. Oof, I really want to make a move, but my top player, Caleb Tiernan, I don't believe teams will see him that way. Same thing with Malachi Lawrence. I don't think that the value is there in terms of the perception. So, like, my next best player is Mekhi Lemon in terms of what's actually, like, looked at as top-tier talent. And you got Chris Bell that's, like, right behind that. It's very hard to justify any sort of move here. For the Commanders, I would love to make one, though. Could we? We could actually make a small move with the Texans to go after Jeremiah Love. It's a very bad running back class. My only problem is Jeremiah Love does kind of have an overlap of skill set with he does kind of have an overlap of skill set with Woody Marks. I don't know why the hell I just blanked on Woody's name, but Woody Marks. That is a little bit worrisome. So it's just like, I don't think you can justify it. I want to do it so badly. I can't do it. It's not fair. So I'm looking, and I'm going to give the Commanders a weapon here. My goal is get this offense spread out. Get it being able to attack multiple levels of the field. Deebo Samuel's role in this offense has been more profound than I expected. And because of that, I personally love Chris Bell on this team. He's someone who is great after the catch. He also has the 220-pound build. So talking about similar builds there. Has the deep speed as well. He is my wide receiver 3. And again, you're talking about someone like Kai Lemon who's more slot specific, but that's kind of where Jalen Lane's supposed to thrive. We're going to go after Chris Bell. Again, no trades in a trades mock draft. It's just, you got to find the value there. I don't really see it as something that necessarily lines up. Now, at number 13 for the Minnesota Vikings, I think they might take some calls at this point because, I mean, the more we wait, the more I'm looking at teams like the Chiefs trying to make some potential moves because, god damn, I really want to make trades right now. Like, there's something inside of me that's saying we need to make some moves. Honestly, with CeCe Mauigoa there, are there any teams that should be looking at offensive line? None in the immediate vicinity. What the hell, man? Where are the teams that need offensive line in this mid-range? Oh my God, that's actually crazy. Because I'm not trading, obviously, in division and for a running back. That doesn't add up for the Bears. It's such a long-range trade for a running back for the Chiefs. That's a third-round pick at minimum. Very much minimum. It would end up being more than a third-round pick in order to make that move. Is there a team that's desperate for a wide receiver that can't make it? The Steelers have a ton of picks. Could end up talking about that and moving up for Denzel Boston, but I don't see Denzel Boston going for a long time. I think we just got to stick and pick. You just got to do what you got to do. Sometimes the value just doesn't add up. And this is not going to be the final draft order, but it just doesn't feel like the value is there for any of these teams. Center's a huge need for the team. Nobody worth it at 13. The only guy who had a potential shot, Connor Lew, ended up tearing his ACL. So not going to happen. As many idiots as I've seen put him in the mock draft for this pick. And I will double down and say, you're an idiot if you think that a kid who's a true junior at a low value position who tears his ACL is going in the top 15. Just saying. Just going to call it out. But I think that corner, defensive back, is going to be the value here. Again, talking about the value of what corner is going to be at 45. It's a big drop off. We're going to go Avion Trell, cornerback out of Clemson. My tied 2 corner in the class. Again, just kind of your flavor of ice cream. I have Keith Abney and Avion Trell tied. Completely different skill sets. This is going to essentially be what you guys will be getting from Isaiah Rodgers, but honestly in a better package. 14, Houston Texans. You waited it out. You got lucky. CeCe Mauigoa, tackle out of Miami. I end up having him more as a guard, but I don't think he's an ass tackle. I think he's more of like a round 2 graded right tackle and someone who I support a little bit more as a guard. He's my number 23 player on my board. At 15 for the Dallas Cowboys, should we make a trade? We don't have a third-round pick. I think this is a reasonable spot to try to make a trade if possible. The question is, with Jeremiah Love on the board, I think this is a great opportunity. You know who has some really strong ties in Dallas? The Hunt family. Because, first off, the son went to SMU. Pony up. On top of that, the Hunts are from Dallas. I think the Hunts are going to be talking to, the Hunts are the owners of the Chiefs, by the way. They're going to be talking to the Dallas Cowboys saying, knock, knock, motherfucker. we want to be able to get our running back before the Bears do. And especially with the Cowboys looking at how their draft board is built, I think this is an amazing opportunity for both sides because, I mean, Brashard Smith could end up evolving into something that's really special. I personally doubt that, but, you know, it's something you can end up throwing out there. I do think for this move, because 17 to 15 is pick number 120, I do think it's about pick number 82, but I also feel like I feel like we got to be able to make a move up here. So we're going to go 177 from 196. So the Chiefs are going to move up some degree for the Cowboys to get that third round pick. To be fair, for the Chiefs, I think they're a lot closer than expected, but this running back class is absolutely atrocious. Could you go after one in free agency? Sure. But like personally, I think going after a top tier weapon like Jeremiah Love is going to pay off dividends. Third round pick also. I mean, it could end up being a great pick for you, but at the same time, if you have somebody who is as productive as Jeremiah Smith this year, who has ended up showing up in the biggest games possible in the biggest ways, it's going to be something that you need to go after, especially after seeing how 90% of the top tier running backs from this past class have actually worked out or paid dividends for their team already. At 16, we had the Carolina Panthers, and again, didn't jump them for Jeremiah Love. I jumped the Bears for Jeremiah Love. I feel very comfortable with where the Panthers are in right now. This situation, I'd prefer to trade back if possible. To me, is there anybody who's really like at risk right now? I would end up saying the Browns should be semi-aggressive here because the Steelers are probably going to take a wide receiver. The Cowboys could take a wide receiver. I don't really see them really going after that route. But I will say an underrated position for the Cowboys to target is linebacker. And Sonny Styles is kind of like lurking. So I'm like debating whether I want to go with the Carolina Panthers with Sonny Styles here at 16. I feel like it's a little too early. I don't think Sonny Styles has been to that degree, like that level. I'd prefer to move back and just kind of take a really good pass rusher there. What I'm worried about if I am a team like the Browns is how are the weapons going to be at that spot? Because my team's weapons are ass, is what I would be saying if I'm in the Browns. Like, I'm just going to be real. You got Harold Fannin right now. That's like the positive trait that you have is the receiving room. Running back, you got Judkins, Sampson, loving that. But like, do you want to see if you get the difference between like a Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston, KC Concepcion? Do you want the sloppy second, so to speak? I'm not really a huge fan of that. So, I mean, let's look at and evaluate the option of this trade here. We might just have to stick and pick, but a lot of really good draft capital for the Browns, like a lot of it. And honestly, the Panthers with their draft board should be more into a sell mode. It cost me a third round pick, like a late third, to move up with the Dallas Cowboys. I think that we can end up actually like reshifting the draft board a little bit with this right here. So with pick number 68, that's an extremely high price to pay. I think going 104 and then we can end up going after like a next year fourth or third would be probably the best move. We end up tossing in 147 as well. You can do the math on there and end up seeing if that's going to be totally worth it. But like for me, especially because we'll just negate that. Let's go 147. We toss in 194. Give another pick right there. We'll go with that. Voila. The Browns move up. And again, they're jumping multiple teams that could be looking at wide receiver. And I think it's super crucial with Ty Simpson that you go after wide receiver. And we ended up keeping our top tier picks. I'm pretty happy with that as well. I think you need to get a dynamic weapon. And Mekhi Lemon's exactly that. He's someone who could end up being top 5 on people's boards, and I would not blink an eye. And that's an elite weapon that essentially is what Jerry Jeudy should have been. At number 17 for the Chicago Bears, unfortunately, we've kind of poached a lot of the top options for the Bears. Dennis Allen, like 6'5", 275 plus, doesn't really fit. You got Keldrick Falk, but he's kind of been, for a lack of a better term, really, really like indecisive in terms of where he wants to play. Because he's been playing some interior. He's been gaining gained 15 pounds compared to in the summer. Or in the spring, excuse me. So I'm like really confused at where the Bears should be targeting. Honestly, tackle is a very good option. And personally, I think that we should try to ship away. I think it was a bad decision in the first place to go after Ozzie Trapilo, in my opinion. Like, this team doesn't need a right tackle. Should not be forcing him to left tackle. I'm looking at Trevor Gooseby, and this is somebody that I had a lack of faith in at the start of the year. This is a player who already is on a trajectory for me with the current grade that he has as a top 64 player. And he's getting better and better. And as the season progresses, I think he's going to continue polishing in the right system. I think he ends up being worth a top half of the first round pick, especially when this tackle class is so damn weak. This team, the Bears, loves measurables. Caleb Tiernan's not going to be on their list. Lamu's not going to be on their list. There's Proctor, but a lot of people think he should play guard. One of the few players people do not debate whether he should play guard or tackle is Trevor Goosby. So I feel very comfortable with going Goosby. The question is, who do we end up sending our tackle to in Ozzy Trapilo? And it's a great opportunity for us as well to flip and get some good capital here. Who is looking for a right tackle? Can talk about the Rams again. I like how they're going with Warren McClendon. Damn, who needs a right tackle nowadays? You know what? The Patriots could end up getting their right tackle in the future. Philly. I mean, to be fair, Ozzy Trapilo, if I'm not mistaken, was brought in by the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they have Hinton. They have Cam Williams. Cam Williams, if I'm not mistaken, was tried out at guard. I don't like Hinton. I don't like Williams for the future. I love the idea of the picks, but Trapilo, in my opinion, is a significantly better option. So we're going to go and we're going to trade with the Philadelphia Eagles if I ever find them. My blind ass couldn't find anything last time. There we go. And we're going to end up sending a comp third. We can end up sending a fourth, but we'll go pick 99, end up getting, one of these picks in return. How he ends up getting 230. It's going to be part of his little trade deals. And so we're going to end up pushing that through. Ozzy Trapilo goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Bears draft Trevor Goosby, tackle out of Texas. At number 18, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who we've traded back. Got some good draft capital there. Got that pick 82. And again, I could end up going after edge here. I don't think that's a bad move. Defensive interior as well. I need to start pushing the defensive interiors higher because NFL teams love these type of guys. And Christian Miller is continuing to show that his top end reps are just jaw dropping. The stats aren't there, but teams don't necessarily care too much about the stats. They care a lot more about the talent. And Christian Miller is a top tier talent. Now, if I pass on him, where does he go? That's the question you got to ask, because at 31, we could probably get him. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I'm actually going to look for the Cowboys. You could talk about corner here with Colton Hood. You guys do need corner. And it's kind of a funny way to stick it to the Eagles too. You guys care about zone coverage capabilities as well as man, the physicality. I actually like Colton Hood. Could end up talking myself into linebacker here as well, but I didn't feel comfortable with it at 16. I don't feel comfortable with it at 18. You got to be in the 20s, in my opinion, to go after Sonny Styles. We're going to go after Colton Hood there to play the boundary corner for the Cowboys. At 19 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we've taken off the majority of the usable corners. So I'm just going to go after the best player available. And in my opinion, you look at Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion. Those are the best ones for the Steelers. We need another weapon. Roman Wilson can end up playing in the slot and end up being somebody, hopefully, when healthy, can end up being a really good asset. Luckily, Broderick Jones showing some strides as well. I feel very comfortable with the idea of going after someone who ends up providing that jump catch ability that we just do not have right now. The flexibility of Denzel Boston to play all over the field is great. And with Casey Concepcion, I would not mind it at all. It just depends on what you want to go for. And I'd rather go for 6'4", 210 and have pretty much, like, for a lack of a better term, the twin towers of DK Metcalf and Denzel Boston, DK and DB, rather than Casey Concepcion, who, in my opinion, should have some slot flexibility. 20 for the Carolina Panthers. We traded back, got some good draft capital because of that. And with doing all that, very happy that we did so. We can end up looking at linebacker here. As I said, I want to be in the 20s before I start thinking about linebacker. And that's probably where my head's at. Edge rusher, I still feel so comfortable at 48 getting a quality edge. I think this is the prime opportunity to go after a linebacker at 48 with the amount of teams that need linebacker. That's where I start feeling like we might be pushing the button a little bit. And so we're going to go Sonny Styles here, linebacker out of the Ohio State University. Just a solid quality mic that you can end up just dropping in day one. At 21 for the San Francisco 49ers, I've been on the Caden Proctor train all day, and I think I'm going to stay on that. The question is, do we feel threatened by any of these teams going Caden Proctor? I do think that the Lions, especially with the way they like to, get a little gadgety from time to time with their offensive linemen, it's a big threat. And I think Caden Proctor needs to play left guard to start out. And this is a great location for him to play, learn from Trent Williams, and then end up having a lot of success. So not many guys are built and play like Caden Proctor. The fact he can play guard early and have a mentor like Trent Williams is why I think you mitigate the risk of him being a huge bust. I still am concerned. But Caden Proctor still has some really good reps in there to where you can end up seeing a vision for the future in the right system for him to be really, really successful. At 22 for the Los Angeles Chargers, a lot of great choices to the point where I almost want to move out of this spot. Looking at the teams ahead, we have a threat at left tackle. So do any teams need left tackle? Granted, are there any players that can play left tackle? We got Lamu and Tiernan here. Those are going to be the next best. And to be fair, both are considered possible guards. But Lamu's a great pick. Vega Ione and Emmanuel Pregnon are the interior offensive linemen in question as well. I could see like multiple teams in this range potentially even being open to interior offensive line. So honestly, let's not get cute with it. We're going to stick and pick. We're going to go Vega Ione, guard out of Penn State. Mahler, he only has allowed one pressure on the year, improved dramatically as a pass blocker. But he's always been a plug in the run, really good anchor. Just one of those players who seems safe. Could end up being a top 15 pick in the draft, and I would not blink an eye. At 23 for the Los Angeles Rams, this is a spot where I want to trade back. Like, we already got Carnell Tate. I want to move back. Kenyon Sadiq is here, and this team likes to trade and move around. The question is, who would like to trade up for Kenyon Sadiq? Underrated team is the Patriots. I know people love it when I send them to the Patriots, but a trade up does feel a little bit rich. I do think Philly needs to go balls to the fucking wall. At this point, I think this is perfect for the Rams because my goal is to get Lenore Sellers late one. I don't see him being like threatened by any of these teams here. So I think that's going to be the right route. And for the Eagles, like I definitely see like there's a big threat to the tight end market because of the Patriots, because of the Bucks. Like I personally want to keep them out of the NFC if possible, but I mean, actually, you know what? I love the Eagles. I do. We're going to kind of screw them over because I don't want to send Kenyon Sadiq into the conference that I'm in. So we're going to send him to Denver. And I think for this move, 15 to 17 was pick 120. I think 101 gets it done. That's a really solid move. Again, you think about 2 spots in the teens being 120, 4 spots in this range a little bit more. So we're just going to make that deal straight up. Easy peasy. The Broncos move up and select Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. At 24 for the Detroit Lions, interior offensive line for the center position is a need. No value here at 24. The left tackle spot, they value measurables as well. Like, well, I mean, to be fair, Penny had some short arms. Granted, none of these players are Penny level, but I could see left tackle being like locked down by someone like Tiernan or Lamu. Lamu is a little bit worrisome. I have a lot more faith in Tiernan as a tackle than Lamu. Tiernan also 6'8", probably not a guard. But I've regraded Tiernan multiple times. I feel very comfortable with him as a polished offensive tackle. Like definitely somebody that I'd prefer to go after at this point. And with the potential threat of a lot of teams willingly going after offensive tackle, I'm going to go with it. We're going to go Caleb Tiernan here, tackle out of Northwestern. It's going to piss people off. I get it. It's more of a me pick than anything. I think Caleb Tiernan right now is viewed more as a second-round pick, and because of the way I view him, I feel comfortable taking him late first. At 25 for the Buffalo Bills, linebacker Anthony Hill is the one who I'm thinking about because if I don't take him here, I'm very much likely taking him at 26, and if not there, at 28, if not there, possibly 29. You get the picture. So I'm going to go Anthony Hill, who's coming off a 9 pressure game with 6 defensive stops. You got to do what you got to do. This team needs a top-tier linebacker, and, he, again, coming off a red-hot week, it makes sense. He's a true potential Mike as well. You can use him all over the place. Would have loved him with McDonald, but still, we're going to send him to Buffalo. At 26 for the Seahawks, interior offensive line is just the way I like to go. Boundary corner is not impossible here. I should have said this earlier. Jermod McCoy not considered coming out in this. He's a true junior who's taking his first practice reps, like as of yesterday or the day before. It makes no sense to try to put him in this. So just going to put that out there. I'll end up responding to comments where people get all flustered for that reason. But honestly, rather than transitioning a tackle to guard, I feel actually pretty happy about going in because I've seen a lot of people talking about Emmanuel Pregnon as a first round talent. He's top 32 on No Flags film. Shout out to James Foster. He's top 32 on his board. I haven't reevaluated Pregnon, but I evaluated Isaiah World, and I just fell in love with Pregnon's development. Loved him at USC, but really love what I saw. And his fit in a Kubiak system is beautiful. So I feel very comfortable going after Emmanuel Pregnon, guard out of Oregon, to the Seattle Seahawks. At number 27 for the Los Angeles Rams, I could end up trading here again if I wanted to, because personally, I feel like the job ain't done yet. And you got Keith Abney here. Are there teams that are going to be looking for top tier corner play? I do think that with the Eagles, a corner two's required. And then also, I don't think this ends up fitting because Keith Abney kind of plays very similarly to how they ended up, the players they got rid of essentially in the Colts. But, it's certainly possible. Because of that, I do feel a little bit uncomfortable making a move up with the team for that. Still amazing players on the board. I love the edge class, and maybe you can end up justifying a move up for one of the edges. Honestly, that's not a bad idea for the Colts. Like, my idea was like, let's try to trade with an AFC opponent, and 1, 2, 3, all four of the teams in front could go edge. I'm going to actually end up trading up with the Indianapolis Colts, with the Los Angeles Rams here. I'm going to end up saying this is what, a 5-spot move up. It should be like around pick number 100 for this. I'm going to go pick 132 and end up giving a future fourth as part of this. I don't think it ends up garnering a full third round pick unless you end up like going and giving up a pick, which the Rams don't have something in the 120s to 130s. If you did, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that. But the Rams get some future draft capital, and the Colts end up moving up, and they're selecting their pick at edge. A lot of very good talents, but I think TJ Parker is the best one. Young, high floor as a run defender, really good toolkit, really good skill set. I feel very happy with him there in Indy. At 28 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's another team that should be looking at edge. David Bailey, do your research and understand that this is not because of the talent on the field. There's a video of him assaulting and committing battery on a camera guy. I don't care what was said. You just don't do that. Like, the camera guy was walking away, and then Bailey came up behind him and then, essentially like grabbed him, and the guy was in pain and stuff. Like, there's a whole, like, he already pressed charges as well. So a whole bunch of bullshit. And for those of y'all are saying, oh, well, I mean, I don't care about the off-field stuff. The past is the past. We care about the draft, like the player. No, you don't. No, you don't. Unless you're the Chiefs and end up apparently having lawyers that will get like, I don't know. I was going to try to come up with some bullshit analogy. But, I mean, if you could end up getting like a square peg through a round hole the way that they can, you could talk about it. But, I mean, the Buccaneers care about personality. I hate to say it, that's a big thing. So I'm not going to go for that. However, there's still some great players that deserve consideration. Howell is a first rounder. I ended up throwing him in this past week, but the more I've started to digest the idea of like how teams will evaluate a sub 31 inch arm length, because again, the exception already is sub 33. There's nobody in the NFL who's successful as sub 31 right now. Like, nobody. It's all like 31 and a half, 31 and a quarter. Like, there's nobody who is worth a first round pick at that size. So I'm just kind of sold on not going that route. And so I do think edge is worth taking a look at. Keldrick Fall could be more interior. Romello's not worth it. Like, it is not a great spot to be. And so honestly, with this current spot that we're in, with the wide receivers depleted, I'm calling somebody else in Florida. I'm saying, hey, Miami, what's good, sugar? You got some good picks. I want some. And in fact, you guys suck this year. I might be open to getting some in the future. What I think I want to do, because this is a very large move up, we're going to take pick 78. That alone could end up getting the deal done. But I think it's crucial for the Dolphins to get good draft capital this year. We're going to give 167 in a future for it. You can end up adjusting that. It's not going to affect anything else in the mock draft, but we're going to end up having a trade up with the Dolphins because you have your corner of the future. You need to get your weapon of the future. And it's a big drop off after KC, in my opinion. Like, I love Ian Strong. I love Jeremy. I love CJ. It's a big drop off. This is a true super weapon here in KC Concepcion, who also brings just an elite floor as a returner. Like, just a top tier weapon, multiple 80-yard punt returns this year. Definitely somebody you want on your team. At 29 for the New England Patriots, I would have loved, honestly, to have traded for Ozzie Trapilo because he also went to Boston College, but that's okay. I do think edge is a primary position to target at this point. I think I want to make one more deal, though. I do. I want to make one more deal. And I'm just having the Cowboys jump the Eagles. Because you might say, like, well, why? It's such a short-range trade. Because the Eagles are going to probably go after Christian Miller. And I need that for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, with their selection, their first selection, they went Colton Hood. I think that the Eagles are going to be a prime target to go after a top tier option at this point. And I'm going to go 115 and give back, I think, 168. Like, I do think that move up, you can end up saying it's a little bit unjustified. I'd respect that if you end up saying that, but I'm just going to end up locking it in anyways. I do think you can end up tossing maybe a future 7th, do that whole shebang. But for the Dallas Cowboys, their first pick was Colton Hood. I think we need to revamp the defense. The edge class in round 2, I feel comfortable with at 47. I don't know about the class at defensive interior class at 47. We're going Christian Miller there out of Georgia. 30, we had the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've been doing everything to screw them over. They already traded for Ozzie Trapilo. If you guys did not pick up on that earlier, feel free to go check that out. So we got at least some competition with a top tier tackle, who in my opinion is significantly better than anything that you have on your team. So corner 2, a need. Honestly, Abney is good value at this point. If you guys traded up for Abney, I think the athletic deficiency would make it a little bit uncomfortable. But at this point, I don't mind it too much. He's very physical. He's good in zone coverage, great ball skills, someone who I have a lot of faith in. Again, we already addressed the offensive line thing, and then you pretty much are looking at edge and then like corner at this point. Like, not linebacker. What the hell am I keep clicking linebacker for? I'm having like a breakdown right now. Again, David Bailey, I've already talked about why I'm not taking him in the first for the off-field concerns. Edge rusher, I just don't think they're going to go after another first rounder on edge. Like, I think that you're going to see, I'm not going to lock in on that. We're going to go after corner because I'm going to say Howie, I know it doesn't fit exactly what you're looking for, but not much in this class does, and this is a top-tier corner. We're going to go Keith Abney, the second out of Arizona State. 31 for the New England Patriots. This is where I'm going to be going after an edge rusher, and, you got David Bailey here. You could try to talk me into it. I'm not going to listen. I'm looking at the players that end up fitting the culture. I'm looking at R. Mason Thomas, and I love him. He's a bulldog. I think he'd be a great fit. Outside of that, I mean, to be honest, you could just go Caleb Lamu here and just try it out at tackle and try to put him as the long-term right tackle, short-term guard. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Just best player available, and you guys aren't afraid of arm length. But safety, I do give Dylan Thieneman the short end of the stick. He's a fantastic safety, someone who I have as a top 10 player on my board. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We traded back. We got some good picks. We'll go after like edge rusher in round number 2 and go after Dylan Thieneman there. And at number 32 for the Rams, I ended up telegraphing this. We're going to go Lenore Sellers and develop him. A ton of development needed, but he needs a year to sit. I hope he transfers. It's going to be the pick, though. Thank you so much for watching, showing the love you always do. I'll see you later.